On to the next subject. Black Clover, chapter 289. So, last two chapters has been Asta coming to Nacht's rescue. It looked like Nacht was actually not going to live. And it also looked like he wanted to die based on his actions with his brother and how things turned out with his brother and how Yami ended up making him the vice captain. So Nacht could use evil to take down evil, basically. Well, Asta showed up in the last chapter and was able to fight the two strongest devils that we've ever seen in Black Clover, Lilith and Nama. And as the advent of Cleathoth continues, you'll see more devils like this popping out at will. And that's really scary because this devil is very strong. So what happens is in the last chapter, Asta shows up and slashes Nama in two. And Lilith says, "What a shame, he got you first." And then she grabs Nama and becomes one with him and becomes an entirely new leveled up devil. And apparently the power level on this one is so massive that Nacht is in the corner like pissing himself, basically. Yeah, super big sword. But because Asta can't detect magic, and clearly Libe can't either, he has no flipping clue what he's fighting right now. So Asta, in his I wouldn't say he's arrogant, but in his naive self says, "You're probably incredibly awesome and all that, but I can't send magic, so I can't really tell." And so they have a tussle, and they start fighting, and then Namalith, I don't know what you're gonna call this devil now because they're combined in two, decides to take a note out of Sephiroth's book, Sephiroth, excuse me, and cast Supernova. This giant big ball of ice and fire, I can only assume because Lilith and Nama, I think, had ultimate fire and ultimate ice. And they were ridiculously powerful. Big giant moon-like structure, which is just a big ball of energy, shows up on top of the Spade Kingdom. And this new construct is interested in Asta because Asta is powerful enough to take them on, but also wants him to despair. Sound familiar? And she says, even if you're unarmed, everyone else, or even if you're unharmed by this big giant ball above the Spade Kingdom, everyone else will die. So she's planning on taking everybody else. And she's like, that sort of thing hurts, doesn't it? And what she wants to do is she wants to demoralize Asta, probably because she sees how powerful he is. So she's going for everybody else. And this is a move that you remember back from the Elf or the Eye of the Midnight Sun saga that Patry used on the Clover Kingdom with his like magic, and Julius had to use his time magic to stop every single piece of light swords. Yeah, mini meteor. It actually kind of, you know what? Spoilers for Final Fantasy VII and the Final Fantasy VII Remake. It does look like the meteor above Midgar at the end of the game. You're totally right about that. So she starts to doing the same move that Patry did, where Julius had to stop. He used time magic to stop every piece of light magic, and then was vulnerable because of it. And Patry was allowed to stab him. Looks similar to that. So she says "grieve" and then launches the ball. And Asta says, "All you did was get bigger," because she combined into another devil. I got bigger too. First sword. So the Demon Slayer sword turns giant. And we've seen this already before, but not to the extent that it got at this joint. Like you can see in the panel right next to me how big it got. And it gets even bigger in the next panel. And Asta, before the chapter ends, is seen launching at this giant meteor, if you want to call it that. Sun, meteor, moon, whatever. Clearly that thing's nuked. What I did find interesting, though, in the last panel, you see Zora and not Vulcan. Zora and... Oh my god, why is his name... He's been gone for so long, his name is Magna. Sorry. Zora and Magna and hiding into the like the forest or something, and he's like, "Just how big you're gonna get." And I noticed that what was interesting about this panel is that on the final episode of the anime, when they were doing a montage at the end of it, you saw Zora and Magna in the forest wearing these cloaks. So they probably did that in the anime, so the anime only viewers could be like, "Well, what happened to those two?" And they kind of fast forward to this point where Zora and Magna have been training on their own or some kind of scheme on their own, and now they're here to join the battle. So that's pretty much it for this chapter. You know, it's interesting how Weekly Shonen Magazine, which is the magazine that hosts Fire Force and Seven Deadly Sins and what's the other one? Tokyo Revengers, which we're going to talk about next, and a couple of other really good mangas. Their chapters are weekly, like Black Clover, but they're so much longer. Shueisha chapters are just always 15 to 16 pages. Yeah, Zora and Magna have been gone since shortly before the Alpha arc ended, I think. I don't remember. I have to go back and reread the chapters because I did rewatch the anime, and they had that episode where Magna was trying to go with Luck to the Heart Kingdom to train, but I couldn't remember if that even happened in the manga or if Magna just disappeared on its own. So they're back, but yeah, it was a cool chapter, but it felt really short. And then I, as someone who reads a lot of Weekly Shonen Magazine type mangas, it just feels short because theirs are longer, probably because they're geared to a more older audience. But that's that. So we'll have to see what happens next week. What I'm really generally curious about is Asta clearly is super powerful now, but he still has a Achilles heel that he can only do that form for 5 minutes. So my question is it 5 minutes once per day? If you remember when he became Black Asta the first time, he could only do the form once per day, then eventually 2 per day, and then eventually like 3 or 4, but it took time. Is he going to be able to, do this twice now? I don't know. So Asta's got a time limit. He's got to take this out quickly, and then they also have to stop the advent as fast as possible. Otherwise, they're going to be overwhelmed with devils as powerful as this one. He was told he was weak. Got it. Okay. In my spare time, I should probably go back and reread some of those things. But yeah, we'll have to see what happens on that one.